Order. Please join me in the flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Board Member Del Rocio is going to join by phone in just a little bit. She's not able to be here in person, so when my phone rings, that'll be her, probably.
You hope.
I don't know. My kid in Eugene seems to always want to talk to me while I'm here. God, I hope not. Okay. Well, we don't have our ASB president anymore because he graduated last night.
And he did a very wonderful commencement speech.
Yes, both the speeches were just excellent. It was, there's definitely a reason why I bring tissues in my purse. So they were both very inspiring. So, but we could talk more about graduation a little bit later. So first off, we have visiting delegations. So we have our representative from Opal here. Welcome. Okay, this is Adrian Cato.
Wherever I'm comfortable? Speaking here? Okay. Sounds great. Oh, you do? It's okay. I feel like I could be loud enough. Or is that okay? Oh, okay.
We can put this on here first.
Okay.
That's what points up at here. Should do. Hold her, putting her back.
Cool. Okay. Okay. So good evening, members of the David Douglas School Board. My name is Adrian Cato. I am the youth organizer with Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the implementation of the Youth Pass program at David Douglas High School over the last year, just to build a little bit on what Barbara talked about at the last school board meeting. So just to give you a little bit of background around YEJA and kind of why I'm here in particular. So I organize the Youth Environmental Justice Alliance. It is color, predominantly in East Portland. So in 2015, YEJA launched the Youth Pass to the Future campaign around three major points. So basically had a demand that Youth Pass be prioritized and permanently funded, called for the expansion of the transit program to East Portland students and improvement to the transit service in the school district, as well as push for frequent bus service around schools in East Portland. So this is just a little bit of a timeline. I know that it was given at the last meeting, but kind of wanted to go through really quickly. So in 2015, there was a launch of the campaign, and with advocacy on behalf of Opal, Youth Environmental Justice Alliance, and Multnomah Youth Commission, and pushing for Youth Pass support at both the city and county. In 2017, in June, Youth Pass was approved for funding through the fiscal year 2017-2018 city budget. So during that time, funds that were priorly only distributed to Portland Public Schools were split three ways, given around $306,000 to funding the transit program at David Douglas High School. So in the fall, there were multiple collaborative meetings with administration at David Douglas to determine an implementation plan. Again, if you remember, we were here in November requesting the administration at David Douglas to advertise the Youth Pass program with messaging to parents around the program that is provided in multiple languages. That was done during that time. There was a launch of the program November through December. Students obtained applications from the North Front office, and then from December to present, there's been continued distribution. So there was a survey process that YEJA distributed surveys during Transit Pass pickup near the North Cafeteria at David Douglas, with instructions to return to the front office when completed. I can share as well the full survey if anybody would like to see that. But in particular, I wanted to go over two questions that were asked to kind of bring importance to the reasoning for a lot of why we push for this program specifically at David Douglas. So one question in particular was having has having access to a free transit pass had any impact on your attendance? So overwhelmingly, at least in the surveys that we saw, and this is largely anecdotal, right? But a lot of students were saying that it allowed them to come to school every day. It allowed them to get to school quicker. It allowed them more freedom to get to places they needed to go prior to school. And for some as well, they would miss school days when they didn't have enough funds to travel to school if they had missed the bus. So if you see, there is actually a student that stated that they would miss days until they could get money in order to get to school that time. So I did also include some of these things where students were saying, no, it didn't necessarily have an impact on their attendance, but the reasoning for that was that they would use it for other things. So they would maybe use it to get to work, not necessarily school, or they would use it after school because they live very close. So this is an additional question that kind of brought around reasoning for why you would use the Youth Pass program. So we provided multiple responses: participate in a sport, be part of after-school club, get to a job or internship, or travel to school and or home, and then also in others, a large array of responses here. So some students utilize the program to get to volunteering and to get to some use it in order to even go and apply for jobs. So, outside of even getting to a job, utilizing it to start to even apply was something that some students utilized it for. Even in terms of talking about late arrivals, some utilized it to get to school after late arrival. And we also see here that some students also viewed it as a way to just prepare themselves and as a life skill to be able to use public transportation. So these are just a few recommendations that youth have also brought up in terms of implementation of the program, just specifically around some key things that I think would be beneficial in order to shape up the program a bit differently and incorporate it a bit more into campus culture. So some barriers, I know as was seen, 995 students had signed up for the program, but around 66% were picking them up. And so these were just some potential barriers to picking up passes and some recommendations. So placing tables in both the north and south cafeterias. While transit passes were only distributed in the north cafeteria, there are 2 areas in which students do have lunch. There was some, at least at the beginning in speaking with students, there was some lack of clarity around the deadline to turn in their passes in order to receive for the following month. So while we were assisting with distributing passes, some students would come up to ask for applications, and it wasn't clear at what point they would turn them in to receive for the following month, because pass applications would need to be turned in prior to the next month in order to receive that month's pass. In addition, some students were kind of unaware for where to pick up and return, so just recommending more spread out locations in order which to pick up an application. And then again, there was a little bit of a delay in when passes were distributed. Of course, that happens when we're implementing a program for the first time, but to begin to distribute an options to distribute applications earlier in the year, allowing them potentially to pick them up from teachers and turn them into the front office and have a designated return date that's really emphasized. I think there was some lack of clarity around when to turn in something and when to pick up the pass next. It's a little bit dark, I'm sorry. So again, I also just want to thank everyone that has had a role in the implementation of the Youth Pass program at David Douglas. I've been in discussions with a lot of people in this room around the program, and we definitely at Opal and with Yeja want to remain partners in incorporating the program into campus culture here at David Douglas, and to provide access to opportunity for youth in East Portland. So we want to see that for the long term.
We have questions or comments. Thank you for your presentation. We'll have some questions or comments. I do want to note that, or ask, have you had success in getting money for this program for next year? Because that's a question everybody's going to ask, right?
Yes.
So let's hear about that first.
Yes. So the program will not be funded by the city for next year. Currently, there are funds for for, I think, through January 2018, because the grant was approved to be pushed with the funding. So it was around $250,000.
So we had reported in my report that we had unspent funds because of the late rollout.
Right.
And I did apply to the city, and they're going to allow us to carry over the unspent funds through December of 2018. So that we should be able to expend the balance of the funds by then.
And do our students get those passes over the summer as well, or is it
Yeah.
just during the school year?
Yes,
Okay.
they'll have to come in and pick them up, but they are available for all the kids that have applied, and we have about just over 1,000 applications now.
Okay. And I do like that we got the extension, because the reality is the city didn't send us the money until late October, is my understanding.
Yeah, it took a little
So
while.
we didn't even get a
with any
full
new
school year
program.
with the money. So it would be nice for them to let us use it all up,
And they,
and also give us enough for the rest of the school year. But
Right.
that's a battle you're going to have to fight, right?
Yes,
We're
yeah,
all-
absolutely. And
And I know that board member Stevens has also been involved in that. So yeah. Okay. Other questions?
Unlike Christine, I'm on the citywide budget committee, so I know the mayor does not support spending money on things that he feels is not a city required service. And there's others beside the youth pass. Are you having conversations with TriMet? Because that's really where it should be. And I thought there was some funding. I know there was funding put into the state transportation bill for them for low-income fares, and I was curious about youth passes, if any kind of funding was put in where you could push for that from TriMet, because that's who really provides the service
Right.
rather than the city.
Right, and we see as the end goal to have TriMet fund the program. That is what we see as ideal. So right now we are in discussions around HB 2017, which would, the transportation package that's coming in. There's around $550,000 for student transit, so about 1%, but it's $250,000 in the first year, and then $550 in the second year. But that's it's a floor, not a ceiling. So they have to provide 1% of the $55 million they're getting in with the transportation package to use towards student transit. That's a requirement. So we are in discussions around using that for Youth Pass.
They put that much into that bill, and I know for a fact that PPS, they get a third of what their cost was, which was about $900,000.
Right.
And do they see that excluding what PPS, or that just wipes out the whole amount, even if
Right.
they partially fund PPS?
Right. So we continue to be in discussions to emphasize that it needs to be in addition to what they're already contributing, that it shouldn't be, we already contribute this amount through PPS. So that's something that we are still working on, an avenue through the transportation package that's coming in.
Yeah, and it might be more for the district, but so students go to the trouble, they fill out the application, they turn it in, they're approved, they have it, and we have like 30% of students that don't pick up their pass.
Right.
So do we check with them, or is it just an on them? I mean, I'm all for personal accountability, right? I'm not saying we're gonna go and track them down one by one, but it could have just been fun to fill out the application, but assuming there was a need, I saw the point, right? They're only distributed in the one cafeteria, which can, there's barriers we can work on, but is there a way to know who applied and who didn't pick them up? And do we reach out to them?
It's a really good question, Kyle, and I don't know if the high school has reached out to those that don't pick them up, but we do have a list. They have a list of students, because when they come to pick them up, we have to check off that we've handed them a pass. But I don't know what checks and balances there has been to loop back, but I can definitely follow up with the high school.
Yeah, I would say on the end of picking up the pass, it is very much so on the student right now to pick it up, that there isn't necessarily as much of a follow-up, I don't believe, if you have not, so that is a barrier right now.
assuming that it's all good and that we go forward, Barb, if you'd ask them what, and if it's a hassle, right, again, I go back to personal accountability, right? Here, you have this pass available to you. But, I mean, I'll just say selfishly, I have everything delivered to me. So, right, I mean, Amazon brings everything I want to my house. If we know their name, we know what classes they're in, here's your pass. Right? I mean, again, just a possibility. So.
I would say, given our turnover rate, some of those may no longer, between application and pickup time, they might not even be in our school anymore.
Do we know if Portland Public has a similar pickup, like 30% ratio?
Right. No, so also I can speak a little bit on that. So the program, both at Park Rose and David Douglas, looks very different than it does at Portland Public right now. So Portland Public Schools, when students come in to pick up their IDs, the TriMet logo is already imprinted on it. So there's no picking up passes or applying, and all students are covered in Portland Public Schools. So that is a difference.
And if I remember right, it's only the school year, not the summer.
Thanks for the presentation. It's always really helpful to hear about the advocacy that is coming not only from organizations, but certainly from students as well. So I appreciate that. And I just want to also articulate that while, you know, the long-term goal is to have a youth pass, I also want to highlight that as a parent and someone who does live in this district, the additional leverage from the city of transportation safety improvements. So it's not just about the access to the transit, but certainly having a safe way to get there, and seeing lots of kiddos out on our streets walking with no sidewalks or poor lighting is also a big concern. So know that I will continue to advocate to the city on those pieces so that we can have a more comprehensive approach to transit for our students. I think the other piece that I wanted to flag was that the mayor's chief of staff, I think you have heard, is going to transition to TriMet as their next COO, and so know that that will be another opportunity for partnership in looking at a long-term approach for the student transit pass or youth pass. And so I know that that has already been a conversation with the mayor's office, and so that should be really exciting. And again, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the advocacy brings at the state level as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay. Now if I can get the sign-in sheet. Thank you. Okay. First up is Craig Rogers. Welcome.
Good evening. And actually what I wrote down was safety, because there's no such thing as a free lunch, and safety costs money. So we're concerned. Oh, thank you. Sign language. There you go. Thank you. So let's see. Last weekend I woke up, there's a fire engine coming down in front of my house, and they told me that they got a call that there were fires being lit in a hillside down there by Floyd Light Middle School. And later on I went over and checked it out, and I didn't see anything, but it just shows you got to keep your eye on things down there. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to go on my evening patrol. And that area of Habitat for Humanity that's right next to David Douglas School, their grass was getting really high. So then I was more motivated after this fire engine's coming down to speak with stronger words on the phone when I talked to the gentleman that heads it up. And as of Wednesday, that grass is all cut down. And listen, I got to tell you, there's magic going on there. I had to is this really going on? Because I'm seeing families out there walking. I'm seeing people with their dogs. It's like, let's make Portland safe again. That's what's happening there. And that's because the school board has backed Ken and Doug Pease And Doug's in agreement with me, zero tolerance. I mean, families are enjoying that area in big numbers. It's just amazing. It's, you know, nature loves a void, I guess, you know, that's the way it works. So I want to thank you for supporting Ken and Doug. As far as I'm concerned, these guys are worth their weight in gold. They're capable of prudent decisions. And I've always said, ever since Mark Galke, I've told him that the big difference between City of Portland, anything, and David Douglas School Board is that the City of Portland's all political, and David Douglas is professional. And they make a decision. If they make a mistake, they learn from it and go on. City of Portland, just open up the paper and you see what's going on there, especially with the school board or city council. So, I don't know. I got a little piece of paper and I probably won't even finish what's on here. So, I want to bring up PERS. You know, it's not a pretty subject. I know a fair amount about it. I negotiated contracts between Teamsters and Coca-Cola for the better part of 40 years. Tens of millions of dollars there I'm dealing with. And my credibility was dependent upon one thing when I walked away from the table, that I left something on it. And I'll tell you, when both sides negotiated this PERS thing, they took the table with them because they're both recipients of it. And then when it goes to the state Supreme Court, hey, they're recipients of it. Tell you the truth, you know what I tell people? It needs to go to the Supreme. You know what they do? They throw the whole thing out. That's what they do. So this is serious. And did anybody see the article April 14th on the front page of the Sunday New York Times about the Oregon PERS? Did anybody see that? Good. Thank you. I'm going to try and read something here really quick. Okay. Across Oregon, local officials have been told to brace for 15 to 20 more years of rising pension bills. That's when the current generation retirees will start dying out. All we can do is wait, said Jay Meredith, Finance Director of Grants Pass, the seat of Josephine County. In the meantime, mounting pension costs mean that a generation of school children is growing up in the area with no theater program, no orchestra, no wood shop, and minimal sports, chorus, and art. That's if they get to school. The county road recently washed out, stranding 300 people. Miss Dwyer of the Three Rivers School District reported the problem to a public works official. She recalled the response, I have trucks, but I can't put gas in them to come to you and dig it out. That's how bad it's getting because they took the table with them. So I think I really want you to get proactive and start leaning on some people to tell them to do the prudent thing, the right thing. My time is up, correct? Yeah, okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I really appreciate the work you do. That's why it's a difference. You're professional, and anything with the city of Portland is all political.
Okay, next up is Silka Akerson.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to talk about two different things today, which I don't know how I'll fit into the time, and I think they'll both be unpopular, but important to bring them up anyways. One is that when I was here for another meeting in this room, I happened to notice the mascot logos hanging out over on the table. And it was while we were having a conversation about how we want schools in David Douglas School District to be welcoming to all students. And I just wanted to fully bring it to the attention of the board and the district that at least 4 of the mascot names are a real problem in terms of being welcoming to all students. And it's the reverse of having a welcoming atmosphere to all students. So, you know, a step that I can see that's going in a really wonderful direction is when we walk into Floyd Light High School and there are flags from the nations that so many students in the school's families come to. But in contrast, we have some mascots that are white-specific or European-specific ethnicities, like Scots and Vikings. And I don't think that those are appropriate for a diverse school district like the one that we have. I think for some white members of the district or of the board, it may be difficult to hear that because we hear things like that and they sound neutral. But I'll just contrast it. What if we were the David Douglas Mexicans? We would see that the David Douglas Mexicans is not a name or a term that's inclusive of all the people in the school, right? So David Douglas Scots is having a mascot for the whole school that refers to a specific European ethnicity, which is the same way, well, it's different. It's a historic, specific ethnic group for the Ventura Park Vikings. And I would argue that both the Minutemen and the Patriots also have similar racial connotations, especially the Minutemen. I think a lot of folks who went to school in the 80s or 90s or before may think of as the Minutemen as Revolutionary War heroes, but the Minutemen also, fought and massacred the Pequot people and the Wampanoag people and were paid for bringing in scalps of Native American people. Many of the Minutemen were slave owners. The current Minutemen organization is an extreme racist and anti-immigrant organization, and that usage of the word Minutemen is actually probably a lot more familiar to students in the district, especially at the high school level. The same with the Patriot movement. It's wonderful. The idea of patriotism is wonderful to many people, but the current connotation with patriot for many of our students is a patriot movement, which is right-wing, militia-oriented, racist, anti-government, anti-Semitic. So do with that input what you will, but I wanted to bring it up. It seems really counter to having a welcoming environment in the schools. I'm at my time. Yeah. The next one is just, I'll wait till the next time. I don't need to take up more than one commentary period. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Heather Franklin and Stokely. Okay. A very sleeping one.
I hope he stays asleep for it, yeah. So I want to thank the district and the board for the work on the dress code update. I'm super impressed. I see that a lot of work went into it, and my children, I showed it to them right away, and I got to say, super relieved, especially the two that are going into high school next year who have huge anxieties about all kinds of things and who are constantly policed for both of their clothing. To know that they're going to start the school year with that, like, reduced stress is really huge. And I don't know how to really talk about it in a way that it can really come across, but for kids that experience a lot of stress and a lot of different kinds of bigger issues, I think, than maybe just, the average kid we think of who maybe doesn't have these kinds of things in their life, to know that there's one less anxiety to encounter for kids that have been through many, many, many changes. It's really huge. There's one point in the dress code, though, that I'm confused by, and I've talked to about 6 moms, and we all have very different interpretations of what the point means. And it says an adequate coverage of the body is required, and the one that I'm specifically confused about says that shirts and dresses must have fabric in the front and on the sides. My guess is that means like a shawl doesn't count as a shirt, and that, like, my pink kind of thing here wouldn't count as a shirt. Other moms I've talked to have thought that it means no midriffs. Another mom thought it meant no see-through type material. So another one thought, well, maybe you could have an open back shirt, but you can't have a shirt that has an open tie in the front. So I think that one point could use some clarification, because 6 of us had 6 different interpretations. So just feedback on that. And in line with the idea of reducing stress, especially in a kind of a trauma-informed approach, I would like the board to seriously consider ending out-of-school suspensions. I know that in my life, I spent a lot of time around the idea of insubordination, especially when it comes down to issues that have to do with cultural competence, or issues that are related to trauma and anxiety in kids. So in-school suspensions, likewise, I think are not tracked, and I think that they're very, very disproportionately handed out in school settings, especially in middle school and high school levels. I think that sometimes when kids advocate for themselves in situations where they are experiencing racism from their instructors, they're very likely to be suspended, sent to the principal's office, or sent into a separate room to do their coursework in a way that is not tracked at all. For an example, if a student asks to have their name pronounced correctly, that teacher may decide that that's insubordination or that that's copying an attitude, and that student could very likely get in-school suspension for saying, please call me by my name, and saying what their name is. And situations, likewise, having situations like having a substitute who changes the schedule, and that can upset a student and confuse them, and them asking for clarifying questions, that can be seen as insubordination as well, because that student's asking questions that that teacher deems to be them trying to start something. And I don't think that in-school or out-of-school suspensions, except for in the most egregious kind of extreme situations where there's maybe drugs or there's fighting, ever teaches the child anything other than we don't want you in the classroom. I know that in other districts where they've implemented processes like that through restorative justice or through trauma-informed practices can really improve graduation rates. It can really improve all kinds of settings, outcomes for the child. And I can say personally, I can't see any way in which an out-of-school suspension or an in-school suspension for my children specifically has ever improved their academic standings. It just removes them from class time and maybe makes that teacher feel like I don't have to deal with this kid for a while. But like I said, in most cases, there's always an element of racism in my kids' experiences that's leading to that suspension taking place, or that being sent to the principal's office for the rest of class because that child asked for their name to be pronounced correctly and that teacher doesn't want to deal with them. So I would really like the board to think about this in a bigger picture. Like we did this dress code, like can we think about this from a bigger kind of lens rather than just talking about whether or not a kid needs to be suspended in the X, Y, and Z circumstances, but look at other models that have been successful and look at how that relates to outcomes. Because we do have a bad graduation rate, pretty terrible, and it falls in line with race. It gets worse with race, right, as we take into account disparities compared to white kids. And I would say we see that same exact pattern with suspensions and expulsions. And if we can kind of start diving into these broader issues, which I know the equity committee is, and I'm not there, so I can't, maybe you're already talking about that, but please consider that as an issue. And again, thank you for the dress code changes.
Thank you. Okay. Now we are on to the public hearing. I'm declaring a brief recess in order for Pat Kumar, our business official, to conduct a public hearing. I did. I smacked the thingy. Is that not good enough? What is it you guys want me to say?
You have to resume the meeting.
Meeting resumed. Jeez. Cracking the whip. Okay. So, what I need is a resolution to adopt the budget, making appropriations and levying taxes for the fiscal year 2018-19. Or do I do that? Okay. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Or wait, discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
There is.
I have a comment.
You have discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Go for it.
Just briefly, thank you for the work, obviously, right? Separate from everybody at the district, the budget is inadequate. Again, we have legislators who prioritize education. I don't believe them anymore. That clearly, it's not the case. So again, thank you for the work. Our budget, one of the people that came and talked about other districts that don't have, right? He listed the don't haves, and you heard every one of those don't haves we have. So it's difficult to say, sitting here as a member of the David School Board, well, we should have more, right? When we already, but that exists because of the planning that was done by previous boards, because of the planning that was done by this board, because of the financial, the frugalness of the district, the choices that it's made. But just flat out, plainly, this budget is not okay. Having said that, I'll still vote to approve it because obviously it is our budget. Yeah, well, I mean,
That's what we get.
at some point, I'm going to say, I agree with you, Frida, but at some point, it is our fault because our elected officials keep giving us this, and it's not okay. So.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just as for those who weren't at the budget committee meeting, it was clear that the district had listened, throughout the year on some needed priorities, including, increasing health staff and counseling and a lot of different areas that we'd heard about. So I appreciate that the investments that we are able to make, as small as they are, really do seem reflective of what we've heard, at least since I've been on the board last July. So I appreciate that the district listens, and I hope that we can increase our public engagement in the budget process, both through board meetings and other means. So thank you for your work.
Okay. Any others? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, now we're on to superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you very much. So a few business items and a few celebratory items or celebration items, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because I'm assuming that some of our board members might talk about the last week and what's continuing. So first and foremost, Furge graduation, again, I won't get into details, but during that evening we had 79 graduates walk across the stage, and how exciting, how fun, and again, I'll leave it at that. And then follow up, we have high school graduation with 580-ish graduates walk across the state. Again, how exciting, and I'm not going to get into details because I'm sure board members will. But I do want to reach out, and during both of those graduations the past week, I've had the opportunity to thank the board. I've had the opportunity to thank the staff at the graduations. But the staff of the graduations are high school staff, and I just want to reach out to all of our staff from pre-K all the way through. Every teacher, every classified staff, every counselor, every principal had a hand in getting those students across that stage. So I just want to recognize the entire district for those graduations, those ceremonies. If you did enjoy them, if you did see the excitement in the youth and them walking across with the hope in their eyes and looking forward to their futures, the high school absolutely deserves thanks, but so does the rest of our staff, and we have a couple in the audience, but Becky's one of our classified staff that drives kids every day from this tall to this tall, and huge impact on graduation. Florence is another one of our staff members. And the last I'd like to recognize, and I don't do it enough, but you have a group of cabinet members around this table that believe in our students, believe in the work, and just do everything they can. There's a term, sell out every day, and I don't mean that term negatively. I just mean they're willing to go as far as it takes to help kids. And I hope you see that. I know I see it every day. I know our staff sees it every day, and I just want to recognize them and thank them in the process. So exciting time of the year. The graduations were amazing, and I know there'll be more discussions about them a little later. Now, a couple business items, just real quick. Part of this same time of year graduations, the other part, just for new board members, is we have the opportunity every year to partner in the Kaohsiung, Taiwan, and the Portland delegation. So basically, Kaohsiung is the Rose Festival partner that comes around for Rose Festival, and then they every year bring a high school, Shute High School, and during that process, Shute is basically the culture experience, but they're out with families across our district and beyond. But every year there's a performance in the PAC, and I can just tell you it's amazing when you talk about music and dance and art and the cultural specific of that performance itself. It's really amazing. So I just wanted to recognize that the dinner's tomorrow night. I know a couple board members are able to attend, and I know the actual performance is on Monday night, and I, for one, am looking forward to it because every year they take it up another notch. So real quick, just follow up on Gleason and 128th. I just wanted you to know we're still engaged in the conversation. There's no answer, there's no right, there's no wrong, that we know that it's planned. We know that there'll be open houses. Dan specifically has a direct line. He's out there somewhere and have been communicating with it. But exactly what you're reading and seeing is being planned to be built, and that's basically 2 crosswalks within a block process, and in the middle of them is a bridge. So, but we will continue to have the conversations and really go from there. Also,
what's happening is on Gleason between 102nd and 162nd, they're going to convert it. They're going to put it on a road diet, and they're going to, that's what it's called, and it's going to go from 5-lane to 3-lane, and they're planning on more enhanced crosswalks. They're going to put an enhanced crosswalk at 128th, which is right in front of Menlo Park, where there's an overhead walkway for our children. And I'm concerned that we will have small children walking to school by themselves that push the button and don't realize that a car's not actually stopping for them and get hit, as opposed to walking up the stairs and over. In addition, there's another enhanced crosswalk on, is it 129th? I mean, like, literally, it would be enhanced crosswalk, overhead walkway, enhanced crosswalk that's already existing. So I have a lot of concerns in my neighborhood. I see very small children walking themselves to school, and studies have shown that kids until they're about 10 years old that don't run out into the street thing doesn't work for them. So I have a lot of concerns that the city's intention is to put an enhanced crosswalk there, as opposed to, and I think I said this in a meeting, 124th, where there's an apartment complex where people cross every day dangerously. They need a crosswalk there. But the city thinks they know better because, you know, they came out and looked for 2 seconds. So that's what that's about.
Make a comment because of a prior crosswalk on 122nd is when you're having discussion, ask him if TriMet is driving it, because sometimes, I know on 122nd I thought it was a weird place to put one, but TriMet wanted one there because there was a bus stop there. So you may want to check to see if that's driving some of it.
I just think it's a safety issue for kids. So.
Got it. Next, just real quick as we go down, I wanted to follow up with the board. I think I've already communicated this, but just in case, again, I came to the board and discussed Alice Ott closing actually a half day early to help facilitate a move because of the construction. We did move forward with that. Again, I communicated, but I just wanted to obviously publicly communicate that, but make sure that all the board did hear that and receive that message. It's already been communicated out, but just in case, I wanted to make sure you heard. Second is I wanted to share, and it's kind of interesting because there was a testimony today about it, but we did get a request from Board Member Ana Del Rocio around a briefing basically around current disciplinary practices and procedures, both within the classroom and out, and then specifically on suspensions, ISS, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to share with the board that we received that, and I spoke with board leadership, and the plan is that presentation to be in July 12th, the July 12th board meeting. So just again, quick follow-up. Also, very relevant because we had our own budget, but then also testimony around the budget and adequacy. We did have a revenue forecast release about May 22nd. So it's been a while now. Again, ironic. The good news is it's up, significantly up. The revenue's up, so the legislature's going to have more money to work with. The bad news is the kicker's kicking. I shouldn't say bad news, excuse me. It might be good news. But the reality is the kicker's kicking, which means that decreases that pot, and it's both the corporate kicker and personal kicker right now is what they're predicting. So, again, good, more funds, bad, less funds, right? So that's just, I just wanted to share with the board. We're tracking, Pat's tracking, more to come, but again, our economy is booming. It's just sad the way things play out. Next, wanted to share with the board that we have followed up. I shared a little bit, and we have a meeting scheduled later June with PCC and Mount Hood Community College, both at the same table. Reminder, our community college of record is Mount Hood Community College, which is all fine and dandy, except for our kids are choosing to go to PCC. If you think about the location just in general, and there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that comes along with where our students go and how we partner, and I'm trying to break that down a bit and say, hey, it's nothing personal, lack of a better term. Here's the data. Here's the kids going to Mount Hood. Here's the kids going to PCC. Our kids are going to PCC. What do we do? How do we work together here? So we do have a meeting scheduled, and all parties have been involved and very forward and moving forward in that communication, so which is good. Next one, just an excitement. I believe, I don't know, some of the board members might have had the opportunity to attend, and I just didn't see you, but we did have our preschool playground dedication at Mill Park Elementary. It was just an exciting activity. I mean, seeing those little ones running around and you know, calling their playground their own. It was just fun, that plain and simple and exciting, and a great addition to our community. So excited to report about that, and got to play in a 5 senses garden. So all the senses of the garden, from plants you shake that make noises, plants that you can smell, plants that prickly. So kind of an interesting 5 senses garden. So next I want to, actually I'm going to save that one to last. So early learning steering committee, just want to report to the board that we've pulled together an early learning steering committee to start having conversations about our early learning programs, alignment, how we continue to move forward, how, you know, what our vision is around investment around early learning and what that looks like. And more specifically, I want to ask the board, or just talk to them, and I'll ask board leadership when the time's right. September, I want to invite Early Works to come to give a presentation, and really Early Works with our Parent United group to come just kind of communicate what it's done, where it's been, and really the focus on family engagement, right? Early learning and family engagement, they go hand in hand, and just my hope is we can invite them to a board, to give a board report, or to give a report in September. And again, more to come. I just want to lay that groundwork for you guys as a team, so you know and aren't surprised by it. And we are almost done. I think we are done. I will table those and I'll send it out. The last thing I just want to recognize and say thank you to our staff. This is a time of year we have many staff out there, about 25 plus that are retiring this year. So to everyone at the table, just the recognition and the thank you for the loyalty, the dedication, and all they've done for kids. 25 staff, and start adding up the years. But I mean, we're you know, thousands of years of experience walking out the door, and they've earned it. And it's just exciting. And I always focus on, if you think of someone that's had a career of 30 years in education, how many lives have they touched? How many kids have they helped? How many, you know, it's countless. So every little interaction, every time we have an opportunity to connect with a kid, it's amazing. So I just want to thank them for the service. And with that said, I'm going to take a little liberty here and just say thank you we have someone sitting at this table who is retiring, and you know, a little bit of her and I had a little talk. You start getting into that road where, you know, you started your career, there's always firsts, all these firsts. You get into your career, and all through your career there's firsts, but then you also get to a point where you start lasts, and you start your last. And this is a last board meeting. If I'm doing my calculations right, this is a last board meeting of Barb Keenley, who has served in the David Douglas School District for 32 years, been a director of Director of Student Services since 2004 is my understanding. So been sitting at this table and helping lead this district since 2004. And I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, you will not find a bigger champion for students, all students, and the heart for underserved students. You can't sit in a meeting and not know that she's an advocate for all kids. So I want to reach out. I'm not doing this to make you cry, so quit. I'm doing this to say thank you for your service, your dedication, your determination, your voice. You will be missed, and I know we'll be calling you, but thank you very much, Barb. You're welcome.
Barb, obviously, he just means your last board sitting here, right? You get to come and be, yes, absolutely, yeah.
On behalf of the foundation, I thank you for all your work with the Kids Fund and helping kick off the Richard Cold Family Fund this year. So it's been really great to have you and your department help us so much to get money out to help those kids. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, all good. Okay. The financial report, Pat. So at your places is the financial report, and the general fund is ticking away as expected. We had put in the proposed budget an estimated beginning fund balance of 14.4. Right now I project the ending fund balance at 14.5, so hopefully it will continue to grow. As you know, we'll still be working through encumbrances through July. So as we start closing out the year, I'll have updates for you. Probably the one item to note, which we talked about a little bit, I believe, last month, is capital projects and construction excise tax. And so, as you recall, we had thought we would use the capital projects fund for the Ventura Park boilers, which when we went out to bid, we only had one bid come in, over 1.3 million. We were expecting a little less than that. So we actually tabled it for this summer, and we talked to the architect and to our project manager, and they both felt we didn't get good representation because it was so late in the year. So we will be putting that out again next fall. We are kind of looking at, do we want to kind of redirect, because we were going to fund the additional cost of Alisat with construction excise tax. So what we may do is kind of do some flip-flopping and make that recommendation, but I'd like to talk to the Bond Oversight Committee first, just to let them know what we're looking at that as a potential. And that project is getting ready to kick off. And just a reminder, in the general fund, we talked about the fact that the district office renovation was delayed a little bit due to permitting. And it is going, and I think staff will tell you it's been noisy, and things are getting done. So we may need to do a little budget adjustment come July, August. Depends on how far along they get, but they didn't actually start until after Memorial Day. So there you go.
Real quick, just a reminder as well, because it sounds like it's moving faster than we thought. The demolition of Yaz and that process, that could be within a couple weeks, was the last report I got, and previously it was months out. So they're moving, they have it fenced, they're looking, so that could be demoed before we know it.
Yes, I got a call that they were getting permitting today. So
good. I'm glad. I don't like that building. I never have.
Does that have asbestos in it?
Rotting asbestos.
Yes,
there is some asbestos in the flooring, and I believe there's been some in the drywall. And so we've done some abatement in that building.
Oh, so you've already done the abatement?
I think we've done all the abatement. I'd have to verify that because I think they still might need to do some of the flooring. But as the ceiling has come apart in some areas, we've had to go in and abate. So.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions, comments? Yay, Yaz is coming down. Sorry, I've never liked that building. It's a personal thing. Okay, so on to consent agenda. I understand we have something we need to pull.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Pat, can explain?
Yes. So you have a purchasing approval for bread products in your packet. And of course, after I sent this in, our protest period was ended this week. So I wanted to get this in for you. And of course, we have a protest. So it is a minor protest based on a couple, well, let me put it this way. I think there's 3 items in there. It's not written very clearly. 2 of them are regarding procedure. And for example, we said we would come out at 2:05 and we came out at 2:10, which is minor and it's something that we can waive. The second, we think they're trying to state that the other vendor didn't put in the nutritional information because they sent in, we did a joint cooperative with Centennial, which we frequently do for some items. And they put in 2 packets of nutritional information thinking they needed to do one for Centennial and one for us. And the other vendor did not. They just simply put in 1 and we only asked for 1. So, of course, they said, well, you came out with 3 big packets, which was ours, and you came out with 1 little packet. And so, you know, we don't think that they submitted a full bid. So they're coming tomorrow to actually look at items. So we did talk with legal counsel. Legal counsel recommended that the board approve this and delegate resolution of the protest to the superintendent or his designee. So I will be meeting with the other vendor tomorrow, and hopefully after seeing the items, they will pull their protest, but in case they don't, then that's what legal counsel would recommend.
So specifically what we're asking is to remove it from the consent, and then you guys can do what you want with consent, and then afterwards the board can talk about, once we get, if we can get a motion for that in a second, then we can have discussion and go from there and see if you agree.
So do we need to pull the entire contracts approvals or just the one?
The bread one?
Yes, just the one that says purchasing approval, and it is for Goody Man Distributing.
I think I've got it stuck to something else.
It's just a one sheet.
I know, that's what, I know, that's why I think okay. I'm just gonna look at yours.
There's not much.
Okay, so we're just gonna pull this one contract approval for bread products, but we're gonna leave the other contract approvals in consent agenda. And we also, just to make sure, have the updated minutes from May in the pack for consent, right? That had Stephanie's name spelled correctly? Yeah.
Stevens.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval of the amended consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Is there any? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now let's talk about a bread product one. We should do that now, since it's a little different.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion of the contract approval for bread products to, say it again, Pat, for us to approve it, and they will fix it.
We're gonna move to approve it.
The action item we're asking is that you delegate authority to me to basically make a decision on the protest once we go through that process. If that makes sense.
Is that 2 different actions then?
Do we have to approve this contract and approve
No.
delegation?
I think you can do it as one.
It can be one.
Okay.
Yeah. But it can't be with the motion that I just gave. So
Okay. So would you like to?
I'm going to remove.
Okay.
Or remove. I'm going to move.
Amend
again.
your
I'm gonna
amend your
my
motion.
There we go. I move approval and along with delegation of the contract to the district office pending its resolution.
Okay. I need a new second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Done with that. Okay. Now radon update. And that is Pat.
Yes, so you have a large packet because, you know, there's nothing more fun than copying all sorts of data. And there's a summary on the front regarding the radon testing we have completed. At Cherry Park, the initial testing did find some elevated rooms. We did go in and make adjustments in the HVAC systems, then did retesting, and all the rooms were below the required rate. At Gilbert Heights, we still have one room that has a long-term test in it to reevaluate. So what happens is we do kind of an overnight test. We get the results back, and then we start looking at, are there things that we can do to help mitigate what's going on in the room? Do we notice things like vents being covered? Do we notice things like dampers or other items in the HVAC system that don't appear to be working correctly, and we start making adjustments? And once we've kind of gone through those options, we go through the long-term test to see over a longer period of time what are the results. Menlo Park, we actually had 22 areas with elevated radon. Maintenance completed adjusted on the HVAC. There are 2 rooms that still we're looking at, and we've got to figure out some ventilation into those rooms because they actually, as you know, we're all tight for space, and sometimes we use spaces that weren't intended for, you know, people. They were more intended for storage. And so we're looking at ways to get ventilation in there and doing some long-term testing. Mill Park, we had 7. We are currently looking at what our options are for reducing the levels there. It is a bit of a lengthy process because we got to go in, we got to test, and then we've got to go back and figure out was there an issue with the test or are there some issues with the HVAC, and that can take a while. South Powellhurst, we had 17 areas. We do have Cascade Radon looking at some mitigation options. That is a pretty old building, and it does have, you know, a surrounded basement, so it's kind of an interesting area to try and ventilate. Ventura Park, we had 8. We did add exhaust fans, which mitigated the office areas. We're still waiting back for the formal report, but the actually data summary that we got, that they were all good. We have 1 retest that is left outstanding in room 9, and we're expecting those results. Just to give you some updates from the prior report that you got, I believe in December or January, we do have some long-term testing that we're waiting to get results back at the Performing Arts Center. They did go through numerous HVAC adjustments. The costume shop is still showing around 4.3 picoliters. High school, we did finish the DDC project there and retesting, and again, we're waiting for the results there. And South High School, we are doing some continuous radon monitoring in the areas under the stage in the gym where we still see some higher rates than what we'd like. So just a reminder, all of our results are online. They're posted on the website under our facilities department under radon. So.
Thank you, Pat. Does anybody have any questions about radon? What's Thomas?
That's actually the teacher's last name.
Okay.
So,
well, I thought it was a name, but I was like, maybe there's some technical term called Thomas.
No, they try to use numbers, but again, sometimes we have rooms where it's just like, oh, so-and-so's room.
Okay.
And so I had to ask that too.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like,
what does that mean?
Okay. Let me flip the page. Okay, committee reports. Equity Committee, Kyle.
Yeah, so briefly, I was late today, but I do know that the discussion revolved around, the majority of the discussion revolved around building the committee's knowledge, background knowledge of practices and successes in the district, and if there's something that specifically needs to be quoted out. I know that Kelly or Ken are more than capable as they were there, but I think it was a request that the committee get some background knowledge for themselves on, you know, what have we done, where have we been, where are we going, that sort of thing. And it's my understanding that Kelly gave a presentation. So we also are looking at we have a meeting scheduled with each board meeting through the summer, but there is, we're finding that it's possible that we might not be getting accurate feedback as to who might be able to attend in July. So just a heads up that Kelly may be reaching out to postpone that meeting. However, right now it's fully intended to exist and go forward. So.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody that also was at the meeting that wants to say?
Well, I just comment that the MASD has their next equity training on August 29th from 4 to 7, if anyone can make it. So the first two were quite good.
I have a question about, and I'm sorry that I should maybe know this, but on board committees, because I believe in July the chair could change or will change, and you have to, like, is there anything procedurally that has to be done to extend that committee, or?
No.
Okay.
In the past, what we've done is we've asked board members what their preference is, what they prefer to serve on, and then the board chair assigns, kind of based on that.
Right.
Traditionally, we'll start, again, the board leadership can choose, but traditionally there wouldn't be any adjustments until we came back in September. If you're assigned in the summer, you're stuck. So.
And usually, if you request it, you get it.
Okay, thank you. On to second reading of board policy. It's early entrance and don't use any tobacco, alcohol, drugs, or inhalant delivery systems in class, even though we know kids are doing that. I mean, seriously. They look like a USB drive, and they're, you know, puffing their thing behind another student's back and blowing it into their backpack. Oh, yeah. I've gotten reports from high school students. I've got the high school student at home. She tells me some kid behind her puffs his whatever and blows it in his backpack or blows it into his shirt. It's not smoke smell, so it's hard to catch. But basically, that's what these policies are. So, does anybody have any comments before I? Okay.
The policy is not to use in class.
Yes, don't use these things. These are bad for you, anyways. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve board policy JEBA and JFCG/JFCH/JFCI?
Thank you for reading those, because now I can simply say so moved.
Okay.
And I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So the next section is other board business and future agenda items, and I'm going to go first. Yeah. So first, I want to talk about the Fur Ridge graduation last Friday and the high school graduation last night. I handed out diploma covers. I won't say diplomas because there was no diploma in there. It was a diploma cover. I handed out to all of these kids, the 79 at Fur Ridge and the 500 million that were at our high school graduation. There was a bunch. It's so nice to hand them this cover. It's such a privilege because they're almost all of them are so happy. I will say there was one or two that looked like they weren't thrilled to be there, but by and large, these are kids that are super happy. They're it's just nice to see all of these kids there that this is our future. We had some really great student speakers at both schools. Like I said, those are always bring tear to your eye kind of talks. So it's good to have some tissue. They really did a great job this year. The students are awesome. These are so, well behaved, both schools. I mean, no weird stuff happened. Nobody did anything, like just disruptive or anything. They were also so polite, and some of them would say thank you. Some of them were too nervous, but it was really, both events were great. And I thank all the school staff that helped put that on. This year we didn't have anybody taking a garbage bag out into the parking lot to clean up the parking lot afterwards, which I always thought was kind of funny. Yeah, so I'm really thankful that we got to witness all of these kids kind of start off on their adult life. So I thank everybody for that. And I know everybody else has to comment as well, probably. But my other couple things are I would like to discuss or propose eliminating the second board meetings for July and August in particular, so that staff can take their vacations, and that the June meeting be an executive session with board members only, plus Lori. Sorry, Lori. The second June meeting, yeah, we're in the June meeting. The second June meeting, because we need to do the superintendent's evaluation, and generally he's not there when we talk about him, but Lori is. And yeah, and then June, the second meeting in July and August, just so that everybody can get their vacations in and you know, have some relaxing time. So that's my two things.
On the June meeting for the the exec session for the evaluation, are you talking the 28th or 2 weeks from now, the 21st?
Well, on my calendar, it's on the 21st.
Okay, I'm okay either. I just the fourth Tuesday, fourth Thursday was the 28th, so I just needed to know.
So does the 21st work for everybody that's here tonight?
Well, it depends.
6:30, 7?
Yeah, we can move it earlier if people are available, so you can get out earlier. I know that's important to somebody. Yeah. It takes about an hour. It's about an hour.
Earlier is harder to get up here from work.
Yeah.
And my schedule is a little more flexible.
I always prefer earlier.
Okay. Do you want to 6?
What do you need?
What's earlier for you guys? 6? 5?
Whatever Andrea wants it to be.
8 in the morning?
6.
Okay, so let's
on the
go for
21st.
6. Okay. Do you want to meet here, or do we want to meet at the district office since it's the executive session? District office?
It'll probably be easier at district office for everyone.
Because Lori will already be there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, no.
I don't think we have to vote on it. I think it's just a agreement. No, agreement.
Because
if you've got some hot topic that we need to have a second meeting for, we can. But I'm proposing that we all go and have some sort of fun vacation, or clean up our yards, or whatever it is we're going to do.
They're all tentative anyway. So.
Okay. So that's what I have. So anybody else have other business or future agenda items? Or just want to talk? So board member reports. Stephanie.
I wouldn't call it a report, just that we did have another incident of racist graffiti and Nazi symbols at Cherry Park, and I think it's important when something like that happens for the district to notify the public that it happened. Just as a mom of a kid of color, I'd like to know if there's that kind of thing going on in the community. I also think last time it helped catch the people that we were able to make the video available, and to say very strongly that we are a welcoming environment and that this is not tolerated in our community. I think it's important for David Douglas to say that if incidents like that happen.
And I think we're developing
a message is queued up, I believe went out today or tonight or tomorrow to all the Cherry Park families. And then there's a message from me from district that's going out to the entire district about it. The video, we do have video in this case that has been shared with the police, and they're going through their investigation process of it. So, yes.
Thank you, Ken.
Kyle, board member report?
Yeah, just echo what's been said about the graduation. It was fantastic. One aspect that hasn't been mentioned yet, certainly watching the kids is amazing. You did a great job, both of you. Getting to watch the parents, that I'm just to be upfront and honest, that is one of the perks of sitting on the stage, right? Other than, really strong hands after a while. But getting to watch the parents, they, in so many ways, earned it just like their kids did. So that was really enjoyable. So.
Andre?
Yeah. On the same note, it was really wonderful to be there last night with all of the students. I was disappointed this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the Fur Ridge graduation, although I was there last year, and it was really lovely. So I'm looking forward to hopefully attending both of them next year. And similarly, on a personal note, I'm excited to share that I personally will be graduating next week from my own program in Portland State University. I'll be getting my executive master's in public administration, and you're all welcome to come and join in the celebration. I'm the first in my entire family to ever get a graduate degree, so I'm very humbled and excited, and I'm really looking forward to it. In addition, I'll be speaking, so I'm really, really excited. It's just been such an incredible time to see so many students going forward. I know the struggles, and it's an incredible feeling to know that the work pays off. And so I am excited to finally have a break. And I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
Frida?
Well, I can understand what you feel, because I did the same thing. It was the first one in our family to receive a graduate degree as well when I did it. Did you want to talk about DDF website? I can do it to you, or I can cover it.
You can do it.
Okay. The foundation is in the process of revamping its website. We want to streamline it. We want to make things like our grant applications be available for teachers online, scholarship applications, as well as collecting data about people and emails so that we can start sending an automated newsletters to our email list. So we're doing quite a bit, and we're hoping that, and the plan is that we'll be kicking it off when school starts so that we can share it. I'm assuming we're probably going to have some back to school function with all those teachers, so we can share it with all the staff when it gets kicked off then. So we're working really hard on it. Regard to the Hanson building, they are closing that. As I mentioned before, I was meeting with Commissioner Vega Peterson yesterday, and I believe I've got it right. The 26th, they're going to have an open house at the East Portland neighborhood office. They're going to be getting the information out and publishing. They want to find out what people would like to see on that site. They've already declared it surplus. So whether to sell it, there's a lot of push for some affordable housing.
Light up.
I know. No, I told him that Pat covets that property. It's just over 4 acres. So they may sell off a portion and keep part of it, that type of thing. Also heard I'll be testifying at City Council. I think it's next week on the project on Burnside, about 106 in Burnside. The housing bond is purchasing. It's almost a completed unit. Well, it's 51 units, and so we will be getting some families in there because there's 2 bedrooms there. So that the City Council will be voting on it next week. And I've also put in my name to be on the Joint Office Commission for the County on Housing. They've been looking for someone with some education background. Turns out I had a phone interview because they had 20 applicants. I'm the only one that applied that has any kind of background with education. So I might be a shoo-in, who knows? but anyway, I thought that would help us find, especially with our homeless population. They should be able to share things with Florence when I hear them ahead of time. So that's it.
Okay, and my one last comment for tonight is our high school marching band was in the Starlight Parade, and they were the top marching band. They won the Sweepstakes Award for the Starlight Parade, which is really awesome. And I actually went and watched the Starlight Parade, and I will tell you that our marching band is by far the actual performance is excellent, but they're by far the largest band out there. I mean, it was just amazing to see all of those kids out there all dressed in their thing. I can't even pick out my daughter when I watch this because they've all got their hair up under the hats and stuff, and it's a clarinet. She's in there somewhere. But they are really, it looks like a professional, like a college level band when they play. It's really something to see. So I encourage people to go out in the madness that is Starlight Parade next year and see that, because it's wonderful to watch. But Starlight Parade, I admit, it's a little crazy. There's a lot of people down there, and they also kind of like kick you out at the end, which is kind of frightening in a way, the way they do that. But whatever, I'm not in charge of it, so.
One of the advantages of living in the neighborhood is I can listen to them from my house while they practice.
Yeah, sorry, sneaking in another business. So in your packet, or actually at your station tonight, there was a large packet of information on PERS, our favorite topic from earlier tonight. And so there are several districts and entities that are looking at going out for another PERS bond. So I've included in the packet some of the information that I received from Piper Jaffray. I've also included kind of a PERS 101 and then kind of what our options are. So they do need from us, if we're interested, we do need to actually get an actuarial analysis going. That reserves our spot. I'll let you know that even if we do that, we won't get the results until after our next board meeting. By your next board meeting, you would need to make a determination if you want to go out for a bond or not. And so I've taken the liberty of asking Carol Samuels to reserve the evening to spend some time with you, unless you tell me, no way. And then there's also an option to create a separately funded side account. And so there's a little bit of information on that. We'll bring some more analysis next month, or we may provide you some more along the way. But I just wanted to let you know, unless I hear objections, we would like to go ahead and do the actuarial analysis for both funding our own side account and for if we went out for another bond.
Thank you, Pat. Any comments or questions on that?
Go forth and analyze.